Well, folks, it is Election Day today, the day a lot of us have been waiting for the last 4 years. Polls right now looking very good for Joe Biden. Heading into Tuesday, everything that was coming out showed Joe Biden essentially walking away with a fairly easy victory. However, none of those polls actually take into account voter suppression, any issues that arrive on voting day, and of course, the potential legal challenge to counting mail-in ballots and overseas ballots that could arise later this evening. That's all a big wait and see what happens kind of moment. But there's another thing working against Donald Trump today. And that is, according to an article in The Atlantic, he is losing a lot of support among rural voters. Now, maybe not enough, depending on the area, to actually cost him some states. Red states turning blue, that is, but in swing states, that absolutely could be the difference. And that's likely one of the reasons we have seen such wild swings in some of these areas with lots of rural voters. Here is, according to The Atlantic, these are just some quotes from some of the people they talked to who went for Trump in 2016 and are voting against him in 2020. And notice I said voting against him instead of voting for Biden, because again, there's no enthusiasm for Joe Biden. It is all driven by people who simply do not like Donald Trump and do not want him to have a second term. So here's some quotes. These are wonderful. Nothing's been handled. I'm just ready for the pandemic to be done. When he was on TV, he was funny. He's a showman. He should have stayed a showman. That was from a 79-year-old in upstate New York. That first quote was from a 30-year-old in Maine. Here we go. 80-year-old Larry Lewis has to say this. He says, he stokes the fires. The Republican Party, to me, is a dead party until Trump is gone. Anything that is negative in this country goes back to Trump. And that was actually him talking about, because he had expounded a little further, talking about the protests, the ones that have turned violent and angry, and the ones that Trump talks about, this is America under Joe Biden. And here you have this independent voter, an elderly man who says, yeah, look, those things are bad, but Trump is worse. That is very interesting, to say the least, because that shows that Trump's strategy of trying to paint the violence as somehow the Democrats doing this, you have elderly people in swing districts who voted for Trump who say, well, hold up, dude. Like, this is your America, and you're stoking the fire here. I'm not an idiot. I'm not voting for you. And then finally, we have Pete from New Hampshire who said, I was rooting for him the first year, but that was it. He's a crook. I just don't believe anything he says. There were more examples in there. There's more people. And the article makes it clear, this is not a majority, of rural voters throughout the United States. It's not. But it might be representative of a big enough sample that we could see some surprises when the results come rolling in later this evening. I think that's going to be the case. There's lots of talk, right? Is this going to be contested? Are we going to have a clear winner? Is this going to drag out? Are we going to even know by Christmas what's going to happen, folks? I'm not going to make any predictions because I never thought we would see Trump as president. But I do think a lot of the people pushing the narrative of, oh my God, everything's going to be chaos. I think a lot of the people pushing that are the people who also, their livelihood depends on creating this frenzied panic. So it's tune in at 11 to find out if there's crazy panic. You know what I mean? The media has to push the horse race because, let's face it, once these elections are over, they're going to stop taking in a lot of ad money. And if Trump loses, they're all going to lose a lot of viewership, which is going to cost them a lot of ad dollars. So, of course, trying to sow chaos before the election even ends, that's their last best chance to get a couple more dollars before it all disappears.